In a recent vlog, Tom talked about how he is reassessing the priorities in his life. You know, especially now since his father's passing in the past few weeks. Specifically, he was talking about a set of golf clubs that he owns. He hasn't played in a while. It's been more than 2 years since he's used the clubs. He can't justify the cost while he's trying to raise a family, and he doesn't have the time. So why hang on to them? You know, that's a good question. You know, I can remember back when I was 15 years old. It was just prior to getting my learner's permit for my driver's license at 16. And I had this question I wanted to ask my dad, and I was just afraid to ask him. I didn't know what his response would be. And then one time we were camping, and it was late at night. Just my father and I were sitting by the fire, and I got the nerve up to ask him. And I said, Dad, when I get my license, can I get a motorcycle? And you know, I can still see it. It's one of those snapshots that I've kept in my mind. He didn't say anything at first. He just leaned towards the fire with a stick that he was holding and started poking at the coals. And I could see the wheels turning in his mind, and I swear it seemed like forever. Probably just a minute went by. And then he said, yes, you can, but you have to earn the money yourself to buy it. And I was like, yes, well, yeah, of course. Well, I mean, I've got to paper out. I would end up working in a department store. Of course, I didn't know that at the time, but yeah, you know, cool. Well, I didn't get my license until well into my 16th year. I just wasn't really motivated to get my license, but I got it. And then I got my first car when I was 17, and I got several cars after that. And I was 23. I was already married before I bought my first motorcycle. And my father said, you know, I've been wondering what's taking so long. It's all you talk about. And you know, I really hadn't thought about it a lot. I didn't think. And then someone I knew was selling one. But apparently, any time it came up was when I was with him, you know. So anyway, that was a Kawasaki 250. It was a street bike, but it was a two-stroke, and that thing was a screamer. And it was a 350. It was a 350, and it was a two-stroke. And I kept myself out of trouble, but I came pretty close a couple times. Well, the next year, end of the following summer, I think it was, I bought a Yamaha 650. And I rode that for a couple of summers before I had an accident. I laid it down on the highway. I was doing 50 or 55. Someone pulled out from a side road right in front of me. And I jerked around them, dropped the bike, and two of us slid down the road. It only banged up the turn signals, scratched one fender a little bit, but it put a dent in the tank from my knee. I was out of work for a couple months, but it didn't break anything. The bike was rideable. I rode it through the rest of the summer. And at the end of the summer, I sold it for what I paid for it. Well, I went a year without riding. And then my father said to me, when are you going to get a motorcycle? So I bought a new Yamaha 850. It was in 1980. And I kept that bike until 2012. Now, I never was one into riding for the joy of riding. I didn't do a lot of cruising. A few times once my parents moved out to the country, I took that 70-mile ride out there to help my father when we built a barn and a garage. You know, some long rides like that, but I was never one into cruising. I mostly drove it back and forth to work. It was really convenient, in and out of traffic, although it was a real hassle on the expressways. And 1993, shortly after, a few months after my father died, I had this minor mishap. Let's just say it involved a parking lot, a curb, and some mistiming. And I damaged the front wheel. I had to have the wheel replaced. I had the tire put on the wheel, and I mounted it, and I spent a couple days fudging around trying to get it aligned. And it wasn't working out, and I convinced myself it was probably the fork was damaged, and I let it sit in the garage for almost 20 years, 2012. When I moved here, I wasn't going to bring it with me. I hadn't been riding it. You know, I didn't have the motivation. And Well, I went out and bought a battery, put it in, got the wheel working. Started right up. I gave it to my brother-in-law. He owns a truck repair shop and he does a lot of work on cars and trucks, mostly commercial trucks, but he does car repair too. And he's done plenty of work on my cars and my kids' cars, and I always had to twist his arm to get him to take anything for it. So, you know what, I gave him the motorcycle. It gets ridden every day from what I understand. Yeah, it took me almost 20 years to reassess that priority. But you know, I look back and I wonder if maybe I didn't just hang on to it because I knew that my father fought that it was so important for me to ride. Yeah, I think that's what it was. Anyway, Tom, it's good to see you talking through this, through the videos. You know, talking through your grief. I mean, it's something that a few of us here have done. Gives you a chance to think out loud, doesn't it? Yeah. It's good to see. And yes, I did take that and turn it around into a VEDA for myself. VEDA every day, video every day in August. Video every day in August 2014. Day 16. Ciao, folks. Vlog on.